What's up, guys? It's the Slime Reviewer, back again, reviewing more slimes. Here's a slime, it's a stack of slimes. I got the slime on my head, this is the metal slime hat. No, we're not doing that. We're reviewing Dragon Quest IX. What's up, guys? It's JZNES back again, talking some Dragon Quest IX, a game that I, got originally back when it came out, I think. Pretty sure. I was a big fan of the DS games back then, and you know, like Dragon Quest V here, and I remember getting Dragon Quest IX back in the day because I was a big fan of Dragon Quest VIII. Actually, yeah, I even remember when the trailer for Dragon Quest IX came out, and I was like hyped, but also it wasn't exactly what I was expecting from a Dragon Quest IX. You know, I wanted Dragon Quest IX to be a console game, like a PS3 game or something. And we never actually even got like a PS3 generation Dragon Quest game on a console, you know? So even the spin-offs and stuff like never came out on PS3 that I can think of. That whole era just kind of got skipped over, other than like Dragon Quest Swords on the Wii, but that almost barely counts at that point. Yeah, so it was mostly handheld stuff and like, you know, other side stuff, but you know, by the PS4 era, they kind of got back to doing Dragon Quest Heroes on there, and then Dragon Quest 11, of course, came out later on. But this is the last Dragon Quest game that I had never beaten before, so in the main series, that is. So yeah, now I beat them all, except for 10, of course. That doesn't really count because it's an MMO sort of thing that we never got. So all of the ones that we have, I now have completed. Finally, you know, after having got this game back in, what, 2009 or whatever, whenever the fuck this came out. 2010? I don't know. Let's look that up. But, yeah, I mean, so I'm a huge fan, obviously, of Dragon Quest. And it's my favorite franchise, pretty much of all time. And I look forward to each and every release in the series. Yeah, 2009. July 11th, actually. Wow, it's only a few days before my birthday. So, yeah, I look forward to every game in the series, basically, and all the spin-off games. I even said it in some of my other videos or reviews that Dragon Quest barely has, like, a bad spin-off game when you really get down to it. Most of them are pretty good. I heard, like, some of the ones we didn't get that were Japan weren't too great, like Caravan Hearts or whatever, which was the third Dragon Quest Monsters Joker game. So after the second one, which I still have to play. So there's that. This playlist is just on shuffle, by the way, for the music, because it was in alphabetical order, which is really dumb. So I'm just like, I'll just throw it on shuffle. I don't think the order really matters too much anyway. Most Dragon Quest games it might matter, but here it kind of really doesn't. Anywho, so yeah, up until this point, I had played, when I first played this, I had played all of them except for 7 and 6, which I don't know if 6 was even out yet. Let's look that up as well. Because I know 6 came out like really, really late on. And 7 was on the PS1, which I didn't get until much later. So, I mean, I had a PS1, I just didn't have the game for the PS1 until much later. Okay, let's see. Dragon Quest 6. No, not 1995. I know that's when the original one came out. I'm talking about the DS one. But, anyway. Oh, 2007. Wait, no, it was announced in late 2007. Okay. Urgh. Okay. Nintendo DS. 2010, yeah. And 2011 here in America. Jesus Christ. Damn, that game came out really fucking late. Yeah, so Dragon Quest 6 wasn't even out until 2011, so that was actually after this game, after Dragon Quest 9. And Dragon Quest 5 and 4 had already come out, so I'd played through... I don't think I'd played through the... I might have played through those at this point. I had either played through those or was very close to playing through those. Within the next few years after that, I definitely played Dragon Quest 4 and 5. But I grew up with 1 and 2 and 3 for sure on the Game Boy there. And then Dragon Quest 8 was the next one after that I got, which was awesome and mind-blowing, and I spent so many years on that game and did all of the content and everything, and that was great. It's such a great game. One of my favorite games. I think my number 5 favorite game of all time or something like that. Yeah, so I was just a big fan of this series, and I wanted to play 9, but the problem with it was I just could never really get into it. And I know there was a lot of multiplayer functions, which I never exactly got around to experiencing anyway, so I guess fuck that. But, you know, that's the other... Okay, so let's get started talking about the game. So Dragon Quest 9, like I said, came out in 2009. So was kind of expecting the sequel to Dragon Quest 8, and in a lot of ways I got that, in a lot of ways I didn't get that. And nowadays I knew already what I was kind of getting myself into. This is one of the least favorite of the Dragon Quest series. Now, my personal least favorite is 6, because that game really sucks and it has a lot of problems. Even on the DS version, it has a lot of problems. Certain spells missing and whatever that you just can't get, or you have to like really work for them, and a bunch of shit like that. I don't know. I just had a lot of problems with that game. It took me like forever to beat the final boss. I wasn't a big fan of Dragon Quest 6 there. But 9 was always the one that I always kind of put under the bus as well, even though I'd only played maybe a few hours of it and just kind of gotten through the first opening section there. So I didn't really know a whole lot about the game, but I did know that it starts off to where you kind of have to make your own party, a lot like Dragon Quest 3. You kind of recruit your own party. So that's kind of cool, and also kind of a downside, because that means all the characters and that and whatnot are not going to be fully developed and fleshed out characters. So in that sense, this game is a lot like the earlier Final Fantasy games, where you kind of took on a party of characters that you created, and so a lot like Final Fantasy 1, really. I mean, 2, you kind of have characters that you didn't create. I don't remember if in 3 you create the characters, or if they just kind of... I think they look like they do based off your classes. I guess in 4 and 5 and 6 you don't really create your characters either. I don't know, just kind of... It reminds me of Final Fantasy 1 in that sense. Yeah, because I don't think you do that in any of the other Final Fantasy games either. I don't know, that's always just a trait I've really put more for Final Fantasy, even though Dragon Quest did it in one other entry as well, in Dragon Quest 3, so... I don't know. Anyway, so you get to create your own characters here, so that's pretty cool. So I kind of made them, you know, based off of friends and stuff, and that kind of thing. And then I just made like a few of them like fantasy-esque characters. Just gave them all the coolest hair colors and stuff. But the whole joke about there's this whole thing where there's the Dragon Quest 9 commercials where Seth Green was like, "Oh, you can dress up your character. I like to battle slimes in a fur poncho," or whatever. And then it's like, yeah, it's silly, but it's, you know, so it's just funny. The whole thing was like, oh, you can customize your character's equipment and like just like totally equip whatever you want. Well, all of that does show up on your character, and that's pretty cool and innovative for the time. But then you get the standard MMO thing where it's like, you know, you put all that stuff on your character. Sure, you get great stats, but it all looks really dumb. So I actually went for looks versus how the equipment would perform. So I was at a bit of a handicap in that sense, but it really didn't end up mattering anyway, because the game is not very hard in at all. There's not really spoilers, but I guess spoilers or whatever. The final boss was kind of a pushover, and I figured he was going to be hard because they kept hyping him up like, oh, he's invincible, he's an immortal, and blah blah blah, and it's like, he wasn't that hard. My whole strategy, the entire game, this strategy gets you through the entire game. 2 healers, a warrior, and you just keep your hero as I think the minstrel class or whatever. Is that minstrel class or whatever the fuck it's called? Where it's like a kind of a jack of all trades sort of thing. Let's see. But yeah, that works because all you have to do is you have your healers heal, and then you yeah, Ministrelli, that thing. How do we pronounce that? That's what it is. Alright, so that class as your main hero class, which is what they just start as anyway. Then you have 2 healers. I started off with a mage, but I figured out that like didn't do a whole lot for me. So I switched over my mage to be a healer, and that actually did a lot more for me. That way I always had healing, and my main character had healing abilities too, which I rarely ever used. Because the strategy, especially when I got multi-heal near the end there, the strategy just became multi-heal, in like the really, really final end of the boss fight there, when I was just wasting all my MP because I was, you know, right on the edge of beating him there. I was just multi-heal. There's a move that's great. It's called Egg On, which your main character has, or that class would have, to psych up one of the other characters. They have the psych up system back, which is cool, and I definitely appreciate that because that was a system that kind of, I don't think they had in Dragon Quest XI. They had the PEP system or whatever. It was different than the Psych Up system. But the Psych Up system is a system that they had from Dragon Quest VIII, which I always kind of liked. But in Dragon Quest VIII, it was a little intrusive because there was a lot of ways that they kind of... It was really hard to level up to level 100 in that. So there's like level 5, level 20, level 50, and level 100. So you have 4 psych ups that you'd have to do, and it'd take forever to do it because there was no egg on ability in that game. But in this game, it's really helpful because you can have your main character, instead of doing their attack or whatever, you can have them egg on the other character, and so you can actually get that 4 cycle done in 2 turns. And if I didn't hit level 100, I would always just attack anyway. And specifically, if I didn't hit level 100, I would always have my main character still use the egg on ability before, I would still on my 3rd turn have my character attack, my warrior character, have her attack. And then I would have my main character still use the egg on just in case I could get that 100. And a lot of times I did get to 100 psych on that, and it worked out really well. And then it would do massive damage either way. You know, you're still going to do really big damage there. Especially on the final bosses there, because there was definitely... They had the disruptive wave or whatever, which would take out your psych that you'd built up till that point. But I like that you weren't investing like 4 turns to do this. It cut it down to just 2 turns and then an attack turn. I guess you'd be investing 5 turns before if you were actually trying to get to level 100. And depending on sort of what you do, I think this is how it works. I don't really... Because I think I healed once or something by accident, or used some other ability with my fighter character, or not my fighter, but my warrior character, to where, but she still had the psych up active. So I feel like they did some balancing to make it to where it doesn't get knocked out quite as easily. Because if you did anything else in Dragon Quest VIII when you were psyched up, it would basically just, your psych up would go away and that's it, you know. So that sucked. But, yeah, they kind of made it a little easier to do that whole psyching up process, which I thought was really cool. So the main strategy, especially mostly on boss fights, would just be psych up, first character egg on, the psych up character, which is character 2, she would psych up. Then the other 2 would just do their healing or buff. I didn't have a sap spell because that's like a mage thing, so I had it at the very beginning of the game, but you can't really learn that as like as a priest or whatever. There was other classes, and I'll get into that in a second here, but I kind of want to just talk about like my strategy first. So that was it. That's all I had to do, and you can pretty much just breeze through the entire game doing that. So yeah, the difficulty, not too terribly difficult. And that kind of only de-incentivizes you to use the class system that they put in place, which, so this game, much like Dragon Quest 3, has a class system, and this actually is where it kind of resembles more of a Final Fantasy Tactics sort of thing, or Tactics Advance is more of the one I know, to where if you do certain stuff, I mean, in this game it's more like you do quests and you have to do a bunch of stuff. I never got any of the extra classes, and I'll talk about that here in a second. But you can get extra classes. The way I liked how it worked in Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, because what you would do is you would level up certain abilities or certain moves, or you would have like certain things you would have to do to get a class, and it made a lot of sense. It was mostly just like level up enough, like master enough abilities of this class, and then you can like move on to another class. And sometimes you would have to have multiple abilities in multiple classes, and that would create the new class. It would unlock the new class or whatever, and that was cool, and that worked. And what was cool about that game was you had a second slot where you could, within reason, and sometimes it didn't work and sometimes it did, bring abilities from other classes. You still be able to use those abilities as a different class. So you can have like a fighter with healing abilities or something. That's cool. That's awesome. That's what I like. This game is bullshit because it doesn't do any of that. What it does is, when you switch classes, which is a whole process, by the way, you have to go to this one specific place to do it. When you switch classes, you go back to level 1, and you have to fucking rebuild yourself all the way up again, which is really dumb and bad, and I don't like that, and that's just terrible. It de-incentivizes you to ever switch your class, ever. And you don't even need to, because the game's not hard to where you would need to do that. Now, maybe some of the post-game content you would need to do that, but just thinking about how I'd have to, like, level my guys up 40 levels all over again makes me not want to do that. And especially when the mage class, or the sage class, which is the best one, is at, like, you can only get it near the end of the game, meaning I'd have to, like, level my guys up right at the end of the game just to have sages. It's really dumb. In Dragon Quest 3, you use the sage thing, sure, but you get that a lot earlier on, and you don't have to really, you could still build yourself up fast. It had the whole same thing where you go back to level 1, but it worked because of where they paced that in the game. This was really dumb because there's no reason you would want to go and grind all of those levels again. That's just dumb. I don't want to have to do that. Now maybe I'm wrong about that, but the way I experienced it by switching classes, and I switched classes from my mage to my priest, and he went back to level 1, so I have to assume that's how it works for all the other classes too, and I don't like that at all. Dragon Quest 7 had or Dragon Warrior 7, because I played it on PS1, had a very similar thing where you could switch classes and then learn moves, but as soon as you, like, learned the move, you just had that move or whatever. So that worked. That was pretty good. I mean, I liked that. It was a little overpowered, and it took a lot of grinding, and it facilitated a lot of, you know, hundreds of hours of grind, or 100 hours of grinding or whatever, but it was some sort of solution to this problem. You know, and that game came out in the PS1 days. They had time. They could have done this better. There were games like Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, made by the same company, Square Enix, that could have, that fucking had better mechanics like this. Hell, even in the Dragon Quest series, in a spin-off game, Dragon Quest Monsters Joker had that system that I talked about in that review, where the monsters would go back to level 1, sure, but you got to carry over a skill set of abilities that made it a lot easier to progress and level up, and because you were constantly ranking up with better monsters by fusing better monsters, the system balanced itself out, and the game was balanced around that, and the grinding felt rewarding, and it facilitated you going back to level 1. They accounted for that, you know? This game did not account for that. And it's probably the biggest flaw of the whole game is that. Now, so there's that. That's one big flaw of the whole game. Now, in terms of story and whatnot, also is another flawed kind of perspective here. Most Dragon Quest games have sort of a progressive narrative where they're going along and there's always some reason you're kind of doing what you're doing. But in this game, it's mostly just, oh, we're going to get more benevolence so people are happy and so we can... You eventually figure out it's to resurrect this goddess or whatever. And there's this whole, like, Deus Ex Machina thing where you're collecting these figs or whatever that end up, like, backfiring on you later or whatnot. It's like, yeah, this is all fine, but, like, this isn't a very engaging story. This is just going from place to place to place. And it works. I mean, it's fine. It's totally, you know, one quest to another kind of thing. It's totally standard RPG stuff. That's great. You know, it's fine. It works. Some of the situations are cool. The enemies and the bosses and stuff are engaging. The little storylines within are cool. But it never feels connected, you know, because first of all, you don't have characters that really do anything outside of you're like this angel character who doesn't have her wings anymore, and she like fell from the observatory, which is like this area where it has the world tree or whatever. So, but I mean that's the whole thing, and then it's like it's not like Dragon Quest 8 where you're like chasing down Dolmagus or something. Speaking of which, this is like one of the boss themes. Yeah, this is Dolmagus' theme. I knew it. So apparently he's in this game too. Not like in the main content, but in like in this extra content or something you can fight Dolmagus. But it's funny timing, good timing, Dolmagus theme there. But it's not like that where you're chasing down Dolmagus and you have like a reason and a purpose to be chasing down Dolmagus. Dragon Quest V had a lot of good, you know, storylines of like that all connected to reasons why you were doing what you were doing. Yeah, so I mean, okay, like the early Dragon Quest games were kind of like this, where they didn't really have that much of like a driving narrative and like a point to go forward kind of thing. But you know, they were early games in the series, and that makes sense. I mean, Dragon Quest 7, you were always going along. That's the same thing. You know, you always had sort of a... It was a little bit disjointed, too, because you were going to each of the islands and going back in time and forward in time and this stuff. But you always were kind of making progress on that narrative. I don't even remember 6, so we're not going to talk about that one. Yeah. So, like, every Dragon Quest game kind of did... I mean, all the good ones. And all the best Dragon Quest games have done a sort of really... They had really good reasons for the narrative and things to pull you along. Especially in the best Dragon Quest game, Dragon Quest 8, the narrative... Oh, I forgot about 11, but, you know, same thing there. There's always a point for you going for. There's always an overarching thing, what you're trying to do. In Dragon Quest 8, it was a really, really great thing, you following Dolmagus, and then you following the Scepter after that. That was a great driving force for the whole plot, and there was a lot of emotional things attached to that, like your main characters being cursed and whatnot, and you're trying to get them back to their original forms, this and that. So that's pretty cool. That's this great driving force to that storyline. They didn't do that in this game. This game is just a bunch of loose events, sort of loosely connected by this whole angelic celestial thing plot, you know. So the plot's not anything special, is what I'm trying to say. But, you know, it's alright. It's kind of whatever. It's cool. It overstays its welcome at some points. There's these long, rambling cutscenes, like, later on in the game, where they just go on and on and on and on for a while. So, yeah, I mean... You know, it's, you know, and I'm no stranger to long cutscenes, but when it's just static characters and all you're doing is reading text, essentially, it's a little bit different than, like, Metal Gear Solid 4, where there's always stuff happening in the cutscenes, you know? So, yeah. But so yeah, the plot not like the greatest, but it's all right. It strings you through. In terms of gameplay and stuff, outside of the class system, it's pretty standard fare RPG Dragon Quest stuff, you know, which is good. I mean, the series has always had consistently good gameplay, and they've actually added some moves to make it better. There's some moves that are like wake you up from sleep, or you know, this and that. And some of these weren't in some of the older games, and I think that was potentially one of them. One of those kind of spells wasn't in Dragon Quest 6, and that was the whole reason the final boss was like super annoying. And there was one that wasn't in Dragon Quest 7 as well, and that was really annoying. Also, I remember there was some bosses in there that there was one of those kind of status effects that you just couldn't cure because there wasn't a spell for it in the game, and I'm just like, this is really dumb. Like, there should be a cure for this in the game. So you just kind of had to deal with it. So, yeah. But, I mean, in terms of, like, the boss fights and stuff, they're all pretty cool. They're all really pretty similar, but they always feel like a decent enough challenge, except for like the final boss and stuff. I was maybe a little over leveled by that point. I don't think I really was, though. The guide recommends you're around level 44-ish, which is like right under where I was. So I was maybe under leveled, if anything, even though I'd done a lot of grinding to that point, because this was my grind game that I just put on the side, you know, to do. So yeah, the game's, like I said, really not that challenging. But the gameplay is good. It's solid gameplay. But I did sort of have my best win condition, like I said. If anything was giving me trouble, I would just psych up and that was it. And that would just kind of take care of all of it. Any enemy ever. So... But I mean, it's just standard Dragon Quest stuff. That's what you always do in Dragon Quest games. You just kind of fight and heal and use your magic and stuff. And that's cool. I get Giggle Slash on both of my my main character there, and then my warrior character, I got Giggle Slash on her as well, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, and the other thing was about the gameplay is it does have a very similar leveling up system to Dragon Quest 8 in terms of skill points. So the skill points, depending on your class and depending on a lot of, you know, like stuff, it's just basically just depending on the class, you can get, so depending on your class, by leveling up, you will learn certain moves, and spells and abilities and whatnot. And then also, based on the skills, you will learn certain abilities and, sometimes spells and whatnot. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. And then they have, like, a mechanic where it's really dumb because it's like too far too late. To level up one skill to 100 takes almost the whole game, and this is like maybe like a 30-ish 40-hour game. So by the end of the game, you'll maybe get one skill to 100. You'll definitely get one skill to 100 probably. And then you can take, if that's a weapon skill, like I had like swords or something, you can now use that in any class. Oh, cool. I can use swords in any class. Like, that's so helpful. Like, you know, it's not anything special. The class system is just so bad. Like, they should have started you from level 1. That's the biggest flaw. If they hadn't done that, and they just made you kind of, I don't know, put a bunch of skill points into that class, or well, wait, hold on a second. No, that is how it works. Here's how it actually works. Now, it's not any better, but here's how it works. So, you can level up. It's not like if you... Alright, so it's not like if you switch classes, your character will permanently go back to level 1. If you go back to the old class, you will have all of your levels from that class. But still, if you want to start any new class, you have to go back to level 1, which is just dumb and bad. So you can experiment in multiple classes, but this isn't a Dragon Quest 7 situation where you can you know, like, carry over abilities and stuff. It's just nothing there that's compelling me to go to the other class. It's not good. Anyway, so point is, skill system is back. That's pretty alright. I don't mind that. That's a good carryover from the other game. Because that was, it's not like the most eloquent system. I do like the, like, Dragon Quest 11 system a little bit better. Where you kind of, because even there you can, like, take points out of whatever you're not using anymore. And then, like, put them into something else. So it's a much more interesting system. But I didn't mind how they implemented it in Dragon Quest 8. Because that was a much longer game as well, so you had more time to fill out your skills and whatnot. And if you had a guide, you could tell from the beginning like what skills you wanted to work towards. In this game, it's like there's not really that many meaningful skills to work towards. So, you know. But it felt like really old school Dragon Quest in the sense that, especially like near the end, like the last town that I went to, there were items there that reminded me of Dragon Quest 1 where they're really, really, really expensive. So the only way you're going to get them is to grind for money by killing enemies and just like super level up. And eventually then you will be able to afford those items. So that reminded me of Dragon Quest 1 a lot. So it definitely has that old school Dragon Quest mentality. But it's nowhere near as difficult as any of those old school Dragon Quest games. So, yeah. Especially if you grind, which is what I did, because I do that. So, yeah, so there's that. But, like, like, I know, okay, and then, let's, like, even the music is, like, it's good, and there's some good music stuff, but it's not, like, a top-tier Dragon Quest soundtrack. And I guess that's really the thing about the game in general, is it's just not a top-tier Dragon Quest game. Here, I'm gonna take this off. Alright, it's not a top-tier Dragon Quest game, because, it just isn't, you know? It's not, it's a good one, it's not one of the best Dragon Quest games, though. I do like it a lot, and that doesn't, I know that doesn't really come across from what I've been saying. Like, as a Dragon Quest game, it's a fine Dragon Quest game. And it has, obviously, what really brings together a Dragon Quest game outside of the standard gameplay of it's kind of the same thing, it's always been the same, and that's what's nice about it. It has this really solid gameplay. The thing that brings it together is the world and the atmosphere and that kind of stuff. And all that stuff works really, really well. The monsters are all here. This is a new monster. This is a slime. No, it is. This is a slime. This is a slime tower, which I got before I even realized it was from Dragon Quest 9. But this is where this guy makes his debut. This, like, slime tower thing. So that's pretty cool. But I liked it because it was, like, they're stacked on top of each other. I thought that was cool. But lo and behold, it's an enemy in the game. Also, slime tower, metal slime tower, that's a real thing in this game. I never saw a metal king slime, but apparently there's, okay, I'll get to the multiplayer stuff in a second. But there's a metal version of this, and I thought that was super cool. I didn't know that was a fucking thing. That's awesome. So there's that. I guess, alright, so let's talk, what I was saying was, a lot of the enemies are still here, and what's cool about this game, even though Dragon Quest Monsters Joker did it first, the enemies actually do appear on the overworld, so that is actually a really cool and innovative thing for this game, if Dragon Quest Monsters Joker hadn't done it first. Anyway, just saying, pretty cool. The dungeons are actually pretty well done. They're short, and yet they're long enough. They're long enough to feel substantial, but they're actually like short enough and like bite-sized enough to feel like a portable game, because that's what this is. It's a portable gaming experience, and that's cool. And I like that. There's a quick save feature. I like that you can save anywhere. I think that's a really strong aspect of the game as well. Just the comfortability of playing it. I love my 3DS, sorry, DS XL, DSi XL. This is just like one of my favorite systems to play stuff on. And I played Dragon Quest Monsters Joker on this too. It's just really comfortable. I like the placement of the shoulder buttons. It feels so natural. It's really nice. I love it. It's so good. Anyway, and the screen is just like so much bigger than the old stupid regular DSi, which I have one of. It's like the perfect DS there. I love that for playing all my DS games. So that's definitely how I'm gonna have to play the Dragon Quest games when I get back to those for doing the replay series. But anyway, so the world and the monsters and stuff are all there. That's charming. I love that. Of course, they add new monsters and stuff. That's cool too. Like that. But part of what makes I know, if I haven't already ragged on everything about the game enough, part of what makes this game not function as well in the modern day is that a lot of the old cool things about this game, what made the game so special, was the multiplayer functionality and the online functionality. Getting all these new maps, and you would like go to a GameStop to download these super rare maps or something, and you would like trade them with your friends and stuff. It's like all of that stuff sounded really cool. And I remember listening to All Gen Gamers podcast when this game was first big, and they were talking about all of that functionality and stuff. And this is what Johnny Millennium always says about the game, is like, oh, it's so good because you could do all of that stuff back in the day. But like, none of that exists anymore. So all of that is gone now, essentially. I know there's like a thing where you can like get that online again, but I'm not really interested in doing all of that, you know? Especially since there's not going to be anybody else playing with me locally, because that's how you play it, is locally online. You kind of have to be in the same room as people. And I know there's functions where you can like help each other out and stuff, and that's really cool. And I always kind of wanted to do that, but it's too late now, so all of that is taken away from me. So a lot of what could have been a bigger part of this experience, and what I think they intended to be a bigger part of this experience, is also lost for me because the multiplayer function is gone now. Now, everyone's calling out for a remake for Switch, and yeah, that could be cool, but they would have to fix a lot more than just the multiplayer stuff to make this a super memorable game, in my opinion. I don't know what they would have to do, but they would have to try, you know? They could figure something out. But there's a lot of devoted fans for this game, too, and I don't mean to be shitting on their parades or whatever, but like, you know, because I like the game. I think this is a really great, portable, grindy game that I can sit here and grind on while I'm watching something, or just I don't have to pay that much attention to it. That's the aspect of the game that I loved the most, was the grinding. And every Dragon Quest game is kind of like that, and that's something I've always really loved about the Dragon Quest games. The grinding is always fairly rewarding, you know? Especially the best it was done was in Dragon Quest Monsters Joker, I think, so far. Just the way it was implemented in that system was really unique and special. But here, you know, it was fine and it was great, and I loved grinding in this game. And that was what I liked about the game. That's what I like about RPGs, is when they just have, like, they're made so you can just kind of grind on the side. And just, you're kind of leveling up and getting somewhere without really doing anything specific. Now, also, I like how this game was pretty straightforward. There wasn't a lot of bullshit. The guide was really helpful in terms of like, hey, go here, do this thing. You know, like, I never really had any problems where I got like stuck anywhere like I do in a lot of RPGs, and like really was confused about what I had to do. It's all really straightforward, and so I very much appreciate that. More so than making me have to figure out everything. Not that that's a bad thing. I just don't really care for that in a lot of games. You know, like some games it's fine if you do that, but like I don't know. Sometimes it just gets a little too obscure with some games, and I'm just like, I don't. What town was I supposed to go to? It's I just like a breeze through it kind of thing, and this was definitely something like that. So I felt like I was always really making progress with this game, and so I liked that, and I liked that each adventure was kind of bite-sized enough to to where you could get through it in a few hours, and then you would be on to the next area and the next area. And so it was always kind of keeping a nice pace going forward. And now I know I said that the adventures weren't very connected and whatnot, which they're not, but you're always on to the next thing, and it just felt always kind of fresh and unique and innovative and whatnot. So that was fine, and I liked all of that, and that was a good thing. So it's just really, at the end of the day, it's just kind of a mixed bag of a Dragon Quest game. You know, there's a lot of really great things, and there's a lot of little things or things that should be big mechanics, like switching classes, that they just didn't do very well, and it's just a lot of missed potential. You know, they could have done that stuff well, and this game might have been much better for it. You know, now we're also talking limited conditions on the like the limited limitations essentially on the DS there. So I get that. And as like a bigger world and everything, it is a little slightly more impressive than the sort of barren world. Not that it was barren, but like the not as interesting world of Dragon Quest Monsters Joker, which just felt more video gamey as a world. I still thought it was a cool world. It's just this world feels more like an RPG world that felt more limited because it was more limited. It was like 3 years before this. They had like a lot of more limitations and whatnot. And that game has its own problems, which I already talked about, which are, to be fair, kind of minor and very few comparatively to this game. But yeah, I think graphically the game holds up pretty well. I like all the customization elements. Like I said, it's a little silly that like all of your stuff that you put on your character kind of like it can look really silly on your character. I think some of that's kind of silly, but like, you know, I like that you can kind of design your own character and whatnot. I think that's cool. Design your party of characters, get to name them. It's a good callback to Dragon Quest 3, and I always really liked that in Dragon Quest 3. And part of the fun of that game was always naming my characters based on what, you know, my friends and whatnot. So it felt very similar to that, and I thought that was cool. But yeah, graphically, the game definitely holds up pretty darn well. And not to bag on Dragon Quest Monsters Joker, because it was really a very, very impressively graphic game, especially for the time. But this also looks really good for the DS, and I'm impressed. And yeah, so it looks nice, and there's a lot of really vibrant cutscenes and whatnot, and as opposed to the ones where they just kind of stand there and babble on. But there's a lot of good ones too, so a lot of expressive animations and whatnot. It's cool. It's good. It looks good. But you know, like I said, the problem really just comes down to there's some mechanics that just don't work as well, like the class system, and it's not too terribly difficult. Really near the end of the game. Also, they do a boss rush in the last dungeon, which they don't really ever do, I don't think, in many other Dragon Quest games, as far as I remember. So that was a little whatever. Like, it was fine. It just felt unnecessary, because it really, in between each boss, I would just, like, pretty much evac out of there, have to go heal, and then get supplies, and then go back. You have to go to this one specific tree so that you can get on the Starlight Express to get on the thing. Oh, core blimey, where are we going? Okay, go to the dungeon. Go all the way back through the dungeon to get all the way to the next boss. Fight that boss. Evac. Go heal. So there was that. So, yeah, I don't know if I really enjoyed that boss rush or whatever. And then there's 3 final bosses, and luckily you can evac and go heal, and then go through the whole dungeon again for like 3 more times, uh, which it just becomes kind of tedious after a while. But luckily they let you leave though. They should have just like put a healing portal somewhere though. That would have made it a lot easier. There was one of those in the dungeon before that. Like, why not just put one at the beginning of the tree or the is it a tree? Yeah, it was like a tree. Why not just put one at the beginning of the last dungeon? At the very beginning of the last dungeon, so you can mitigate your players having to leave and do all of that stuff. You know, that would have been a lot nicer. So, hell, just have a town at the bottom of the last dungeon or something. Or like a mini setup where you can like buy magic waters and stuff. Because you can buy magic waters in this game. I will give this game that. You can buy magic waters to restore your MP. Thank fucking Christ. Oh, yeah. And the alchemy pots in this game, which guess what? Never fucking used it, because guess what? You have to know that you need to go back to the place where you recruited all of your party members, which you can also miss that, by the way. You don't even necessarily have to know that you can recruit party members. You can totally miss that. Yeah, the fucking alchemy pot is there after a while. I don't even know how long it fucking takes before it's there. And then you can only go there to use it, which is really dumb. Like, why can't I just have it with me and I can just fuse items wherever? So I never use that. And the guide like has a really shitty way of telling you how to make stuff for the alchemy pot. Like, I liked the way it was laid out in the Dragon Quest VIII guide, because it was just really simple. It's like, if there was an item, it would tell you all the things that you could use it for. Yeah, so it was in every section where that item was, or like if you go to the, let's say you're trying to make, I don't know, if you're trying to make like the Metal King sword or whatever, it'll tell you on the Metal King sword part what you need to make that. It'll tell you on the Rusty sword part, which I think is part of making that, what you can use the Rusty sword to make the metal. It was so much better laid out. It was just so much better. So even the guide kind of fails in that regard. The guide is great, other than like that, I think would be my one biggest complaint with the guide. Other than that, the guide is great. I love having all these guides. I'm not complaining at all, because these guides are super rare now or whatever. But I'm just saying, you know, that kind of pissed me off too, that the alchemy pot returned, but it was such a minor thing in this game. And I know I missed doing a lot of the side quests, because I didn't do any of the side quests, barely. I did like a few of them at the very beginning of the game. But they were just such an annoyance, and they're always so fetch questy and stuff, like, oh, go here, kill trolls with the frizz spell or some shit. It's like, yeah, really? To get the sage class, I've got to kill trolls with the frizz spell. That's how you want to make me get the sage class? What? How does that make any sense? That's so dumb. Like, that doesn't prove anything. That's just a really dumb way to waste my time. Like, I didn't care for the side quests. I know there's other ones that you could do and all that multiplayer shit that I can't fucking get to anymore. So yeah, the side quests are really dumb. But the reason I bring that up is because you can get Erdrick's sword, but you have to do a bunch of shit. I found the Rusty sword in the final dungeon, but you have to do a bunch of shit to get all the materials to make Erdrick's sword by doing side quests. So, fuck that. I'm not going to do the post-game content either, because I never do that in any Dragon Quest game, pretty much. Other than 11, for some reason. I guess I did it there. So there's that. And 8, I did the post-game content in 8. Yeah, that was actually really good in 8, so I did like that. But, yeah, I'm not interested enough to go through the Dragon Quest 9 post-game content. I got other games to play and stuff. That's always my kind of mentality with post-game content, outside of, like, you know, I don't know, Pokemon games or something. Anyway, so yeah, so there's a lot of mixed elements there, a lot of things I don't really like, but there's a lot of things I do like. It's still just the standard Dragon Quest gameplay. The music is so-so, but there are some good tracks, and a lot of them are recycled from the older games. That's why I'm like so-so on it. But yeah, it's not bad. I like the bosses. I like the constant moving forward, always, you know, going to the next thing. All the little mini storylines were pretty alright. There's a lot of good. The skill system was okay. There's a lot of good. The customization. A lot of good. And a lot of bad. Not a lot of it. There's some bad, there's some good. It all balances out to a pretty decent Dragon Quest game. I don't necessarily think... Well... It's still pretty bottom tier for the series, but that's only because the series is so excellent. It's just... You know, it's the best of the worst or whatever, I guess. It's no Dragon Quest 6, which actually that does make it a lot better. At this point, I don't know if I would put it above Dragon Quest 7 or not. I think Dragon Quest 7 had a lot of things going for it, but the long runtime on that game was a little ridiculous. I do want to play the 3DS one before I make a judgment call on that, but I could see it potentially beating out Dragon Quest 7. Now, in terms of all the other Dragon Quest games, I don't think it can beat out most of those. Because 1, 2, and 3 are some of my favorites. Particularly 1. 4 and 5 are really good. 4 is less so, but 5 is really, really good. 8 is amazing, so there's no way it's going to beat that. And 11 is really good. So really the only two it could beat out are 6 and 7. So, yeah. But anyway, so I mean, it's still a pretty low-tier Dragon Quest game, but I would say if you've played all the other Dragon Quest games and you haven't played this one, it may be worth experiencing, and you might like it more than I did. I mean, I'm just not that big of a fan. It feels like a Final Fantasy Dragon Quest game. That's the way I think of it, you know, and you can see that however you want. But I feel like that's a thing that the Final Fantasy games do, is they do that meandering kind of storyline where they do a lot of disconnected stuff to get you to where you need to be. And it's not always very straightforward where you're going and this and that. I feel like that's a lot of what the Final Fantasy games do. A lot of times, sometimes they'll actually be on track, but they're always trying to show you the next big set piece or this area or something that they designed or something. That's kind of what this game's like, you know, so it definitely feels like the Final Fantasy of the Dragon Quest series. And I like some Final Fantasy games. 6 was really good. 4 is okay, and, you know, 1's decent. And 3 was alright too, I guess. 7 was alright. But 6 is the real standout, I would say. I'm looking forward to 9. But anyway, we're not talking about Final Fantasy, we're talking about Dragon Quest here. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad that I played it. I do definitely like it a lot more than I used to. But it's still really one of the weaker entries in the series, comparatively. But on its own, it's a pretty good RPG that's potentially worth playing. But a lot of people kind of played this as just another RPG in the DS era, because the DS was known for its RPGs or whatever, and they hadn't played any of the other Dragon Quest games. And that is where I have to draw the line and say, no, you can't, don't play this as your first Dragon Quest game. You gotta experience 8 or 5 or something like that. Experience one of those first. Even 1 is great if you play the right versions of it. Obviously get like the iOS version or the Game Boy version or something. But I would play any of those games first and get a feel for where the series is, and then you can make your judgment call on 9 when you get there, you know? So don't play this one first. Although maybe it's more accessible or something. I don't know. Maybe that's the argument to be had, but I certainly thought it was a pretty good game. There's a lot of things I like, a lot of things I don't like, but I'm going to give it an 8.3 out of 10. Because I still really thought it was a great game. It's just not as good as the other Dragon Quest games, which are all 10 out of 10s and 9 out of 10s and this and that. So, but still really solid. Still really decent RPG. And it's got all the Dragon Quest staples, like the slimes and all that. So, I mean, It's still good. I just don't think it's like top tier Dragon Quest. So pretty commendable 8.3 out of 10 there. That's what I'm going to give it. Until next time, this has been JZNES saying keep it classic. Stick around for more reviews, underrated games, and I'll see you guys in the next one. JZ